In this module, we cover additional JavaScript features that work very well with functions. These include default and REST parameters and the spread operator. Although these features are relatively new to JavaScript, they really provide a great deal of flexibility in how you define and use functions. Let's get started. Default parameters allow you to give a default value to a parameter in a function. Here's an example. We have a function sayHi that takes in one parameter name and contains a single line of statement. This is what is called a default parameter. We have two ways we can invoke the function sayHi. First, we invoke it without any arguments as shown here. The name variable will be initialized with the value world, printing hello world to the console. Next, we invoke the function sayHi with an argument like John. This time, since we have provided a value for name, the string hello John will be printed to the console. Let's take a look at another example. Here, we have the same function as earlier, but it takes an additional parameter message without any default value. First, we invoke the function sayHi with only the argument hello. In this case, the name parameter value is world and hello world is displayed to the console. Then we invoke the function sayHi again with two arguments, hi and John. Now the output is hi John. Please note that the default parameter in our function definition should always come after the regular parameters. So in our sayHi function here, message cannot come after the name parameter. Let's see this in action in our demo. Here's the first example. If we save the file, we get the expected output in the console. Here's the second example with the additional message parameter. Again, we save and get the expected output printed to the console. If we move the message parameter after the name parameter, we get undefined in the console, and message never gets initialized. Therefore, always declare the default parameter after the regular parameters in your function definition. With REST parameters, you can define a function to store multiple arguments in a single array. This is especially useful when you are invoking a function with multiple arguments. Let's look at it in more detail with an example. Here, we define a greet function with the names parameter. The ... is what makes names a REST parameter and allows greet to accept multiple arguments as shown here. We pass three string values, Mary, John, and James, to the greet function. The names parameter stores all of these values as an array. In the greet function, we call the for-each method on the names array. We iterate over each name value and print the string hi followed by the name to the console. So the REST parameter really allows us to send any number of arguments to a function and then collect them in an array. Here's another example. We have the same greet function but with an additional parameter message. Again, just like the default parameters, REST parameters should appear after any regular parameters in your function definition. We call the greet function with four arguments, welcome, Mary, John, James. The value welcome gets assigned to the message parameter while the rest of the arguments get stored as an array in the names parameter. This is also how a REST parameter gets its name. It always stores the rest or remaining arguments as an array. Let's run this example in our demo. Here's our greet function with the message parameter and the REST parameter names. We call the function with the values welcome, Mary, John, and James, and save. The output is printed to the console. Let's see what happens if we remove the message parameter from the function definition. We also remove the first statement so that we don't get a reference error. Now, the welcome string is part of the REST parameter names, and we get this unexpected line, hi, welcome, in the console. This is not what we want. So even though REST parameters provide a great deal of flexibility, you need to be careful when they are mixed with regular parameters. Let's add the message parameter after names and save. We get the error stating that REST parameter must be the last formal parameter. That's expected, as we want the rest of the arguments to be stored in a REST parameter and not a regular parameter. Next, let's take a look at the spread operator. The spread operator is the opposite of how a REST parameter works. It allows a function to take an array as an argument and then spread out its elements so that they can be assigned to individual parameters. Here we have a function greet with two parameters, person1 and person2. We invoke the function, but instead of passing in two arguments, we pass an array with the spread operator. Although it looks very similar to the REST parameter example in the previous module, we are doing the opposite here. We are passing an array as an argument and then spreading its elements into individual parameters of the function. So the two values in names get assigned to person1 and person2, and the output Hello Mary and John is displayed in the console. In this example, we define a function display with 4 parameters and print them to the console. Next, we declare and initialize a variable letters to the string ABCD. Finally, we call the display function, passing the string letters as an argument along with the spread operator ... The output is printed to the console. Since string is an array of characters, each of the character in the variable letters is spread out to the parameters of the display function. So the spread operator can be used with any iterable like string, array, or list. Let's take a look at the spread operator in the demo. The display function accepts 4 parameters and prints them to the console. The string ABCD is assigned to the variable letters. We run the display function, passing in the letters variable using the spread operator. So the first letter gets assigned to char1, the second to the char2, and so on. When we save, we get the output ABCD in the console. What happens if we initialize letters with more than 4 letters and then run the display function? As we can see, the additional letters never get collected since we only have 4 parameters. What if we add a REST parameter called others to the display function and then print it to the console? As you can see, all the additional letters get stored in the REST parameter. So it's easy to use both REST parameters and the spread operator at the same time. To review, while a REST parameter collects individual arguments and stores them in an array, the spread operator takes an array as argument and spreads it into individual parameters. Let's wrap up this module with a summary. We first looked at default parameters and how you can use the equal to sign to assign a default value to a parameter when defining a function. Then we looked at REST parameters and how we can use the ... notation with a parameter in a function definition such that we can store a list of arguments as an array. Finally, we looked at the spread operator, which allows us to pass an array with the ... notation and have its elements spread across various parameters. This wraps up our module and this course. By now, you should be familiar with all the different ways you can create functions in JavaScript to write modular, readable, and reusable code. With some practice and effort, writing and working with functions in its various forms will become second nature to you. You can continue your journey to master JavaScript with several other courses on Pluralsight.